Okay, so what I just did there is changes to the database. So we use NeonDB on the back end, and that's basically just updating the databases with some new, I don't even know how to explain that, new functionality, I suppose you could say, for triggering entries into the showcase. So that page will be where you see your projects when they've been selected to be promoted, basically. And so the best projects will be selected and put into the showcase. So that's the feature I'm working on at the moment. I see the stream is quite a long way behind what I'm actually saying. Well, it's like 5-minute delay. Well, how does that work then? Or is it just that YouTube Studio is 5 minutes behind? Well, be interesting to see. It can't be that long a delay. I mean, I'm seeing now over here in the live preview me posting the link to the stream, and that's like 5 minutes ago. So that's very weird. Is it really that slow, that far behind? Don't get it. Okay, so let's have a look. So we're talking to the LLM here, and there's been a bit of a screw up which I need to fix. Okay, so keep the history intact, remove the feature, document the rollback and version control for future tests. So remove the code. Right, so I need to delete a bunch of code that so I got showcases working in the back end, but then I had a bit of an epiphany. API showcase, API routes. So I'm really tired, so I have to use the AI to guide me, otherwise I'm just going to make mistakes. API, no, app routes, can't even see that. App, routes, project API showcase, what the hell? There it is, oh my god. Time is it? 2:50, okay, so you can see here this is creating snapshot request. Basically, so what I'm working on here, this is I don't know how to explain it if nobody's familiar with the architecture. So this is the server code, right? So this is the server code that talks to the database, that brings in the snapshots of your project and then renders it to the front end so that you can see it in your browser. So this is the bit of code that kind of sits between the internet and the database where all of your data is kept safe, right? And it's anonymous, because it's attached to your wallet. We don't know anything else about you. So when you create a project, it goes in the database, and then if we select that project to be curated into the showcase, that's the bit in the middle. So this bit is supposed to take, this is a thing called a snapshot, which currently isn't working. So I have to come back to that later. But I actually want API showcase, so I actually selected the wrong file. So this file, this is the one that looks at the URL, looks in the showcase database repository to see if the data is there, and it throws an error if it doesn't. Okay, so I need to rewrite this file. So yeah, we need to delete that one. Go to the Explorer. So bye-bye, I need to rewrite you because you're not correct. repository, so I need to get rid of that one as well. Showcase repository. Yeah, so this sits between the API, so kind of hard to explain, but it's like a design pattern. So this sits between the API call and the database, and it's a layer of code that adds stability and uniformity in the way that you build the backend architecture. So this one also needs to be deleted so that I can build it correctly, because I got that, I wouldn't say wrong exactly, but my first attempt at building this, it works and I'm happy with it, but not completely, because as we get more and more, I did a check and we've got over 200 projects, I think, or 250 projects have been created already, which is quite a bit. I mean, it's fine. It's nothing really, but if that keeps growing, you know, by the end of the month, maybe we'll have a few thousand, I hope, especially if we can push the word out. Come on, community, get the content going, get your friends, post, share, all the rest of it, all that good stuff. We've got to get this going viral. Then hopefully, you know, the database will fill up, and I would just want a more robust solution to the one that I wrote earlier today. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm basically going to go through and delete the code from earlier today. So any imports referencing showcase. So now let's have a search. Do we still have showcase? We do still have it. So I know that's in the header. Okay. Okay, schema. So we've got the schema entries. We've got some migration files. So we've got all of this work that I did earlier that I'm just going to basically redo. Won't take very long, hopefully. So we've got 8, 9 and 10. So these are all the changes to the database to support the showcase feature. You can see here, what's that comment there? Our team is creating projects to showcase here, check back soon. So that's the page you see when you go. Let me go to that page, Orynth, just in case you're not familiar with it. If you're paying attention or anyone's watching, I have no idea. Feels like I'm talking to myself, but anyway. That's weird. So I'm still seeing Twitter on that screen from the video from YouTube. It's really behind, long way behind. Very odd. How am I supposed to interact with people if you're seeing what I did 10 minutes ago? It doesn't make any sense. Not a lot to learn about streaming. Right, so let me just cancel that. So here, showcase. Discover. Our team is creating projects to showcase here, check back soon. So you can see that that line is that line there in the file called projects, roots projects. And if I scroll up, we'll probably see, yeah, so we go featured projects. So that's that bit of code that you see on the screen there. So what I now have to do is just backtrack some of these changes. The UI is fine, we'll come back to that later. So all of this work back here, which is all to do with the backend database, where we keep track of the projects that are going to appear on this page, because not every project will, obviously it says it's featured projects. And once we've got that working, then we'll figure out, you know, how we add features to that, you know, so that maybe, I don't know, we haven't even discussed it yet, but obviously we want sorting and filtering and maybe voting and leaderboards and all of that stuff that you get, right? So first we've got to lay down a solid groundwork so that we can support all of that. And as I said earlier, my first attempt I wasn't particularly proud of. So that's why I'm backing out all of these changes. But backing out of these changes is actually quite a complicated process. So for anybody who does watch this stream, who wants to understand how the backend structure works and how the database works, it's quite an informative stream, I suppose. So for example, if I go to this tool, where is it? I don't even know where it is now. Let's bring it up. So this is I like the name, DB Visualizer, Database Visualizer. So here I'm connected to the Orynth Dev database. So if I drill into this, and this is like the, every application in the world has got a database pretty much. I mean, not all, like there are exceptions, but most websites, they take your name, your email address, etc. That has to be stored somewhere, right? Looks like it can't connect. Why am I keep having these connection issues today? Let's reconnect. Come on, network. Got a brand new cable. I think it's just the stream is killing my bandwidth. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So we go in here and we use something called Drizzle, which is a pretty cool technology that just makes our lives easier when we talk to our database. So let's go into, I think it's this one. So if we look here, perhaps I'm giving too much away on this, I don't know, but anyway, we've got a bunch of tables in here, and you can see if I go to the showcase entries table, and let's see, empty table, I want to, so at the top, open a new tab, all that. So this shows me the definition of the table and all sorts of properties about it, and it shows me the columns. So this will now show the names of the things that we store inside it, right? So you can see I've added like a rank feature so that later on we can vote and rank the projects that are in the showcase, right? So I just added that because it was an easy thing to do. And it's got some timestamps, which is basically date, time, time it was created, updated, and all that. And if we look at the data, don't worry, I'm not exposing anything personal here, but some of you will probably wonder what the hell is all of this, right? Now obviously these things are just IDs, they're unique random IDs, so that you can easily uniquely identify whose project it is. But you can see I'm looking here into the database, and there's no names or emails or anything like that. It's just timestamps and IDs. So if I now go to a different table, so let me go here and open up this one. So this table keeps track of when you click the publish button in the front end, right? So you want to deploy it to a domain. So this one probably will make a little bit more sense to anybody watching, because this one, if I go to the data, you'll see here some domains, right? So you can, this one shows a little bit more useful information, and over here it's keeping track, right? So you can see that there's still quite a lot of pending verification status, because all of these projects are being deployed and they have to be verified, and some of them you can see are verified, and some of them are still pending, some of them are awaiting the DNS settings. So that's all of the technical information that we keep track of and we store and we capture, and it all gets updated automatically. You don't have to do anything, right? We've taken care of all of that process, and so that's why it's so easy on Orynth for you to just click a few buttons, and all the technical headaches that go with deploying a website are handled for you. And to be honest, that's amazing. I think that we do that for free, yeah, that's like we're using Vercel, which is not cheap, right? There are cheaper alternatives to Vercel, but we went with Vercel because it's pretty standard in terms of the de facto service that most React-based websites and apps use. React is the front-end technology, which personally I hate. Lots of developers hate it because it has issues. I don't mean issues in that it doesn't work. I mean in the way that it's designed and built is now already kind of old, and there are better solutions to it already. in the market, but they haven't reached big adoption. Getting sidetracked now, but anyway. So I do think the future is probably going to kill React, because I think there is better technology coming already. I saw one a couple of months ago that I can't wait to try. So anyway, how did I get onto that? Yeah, so Vercel, which is the backers of Next.js, which is another framework that's used with React, and so as a result they've become extremely popular with most companies that use that technology stack. So for us it's easy to use Vercel even though they're expensive, but you guys don't have to worry about that because we cover those costs. But obviously we can't do that forever, so we need to get the community bigger and bigger and bigger and get people sharing and buying Ori and using the product and sharing what they create. And that's what the plan is for the next month. Push out as much content as we possibly can and get people using the product. And remind them that it's free, right? So there's the domain. So if I take one of, I don't know, let's take a random, let's take a verified one. So this one is verified. So if I just grab that piece of text, just to prove, it's optimistic Jang -1. So if I go paste that in, it should load hopefully, because that's a verified one. Oh, it's just a test page. Okay, yeah, because I'm in the test database. But you can see that loaded, and that's that project. I wonder if there's a better verified example. What's this one? Let's have a look at this one. Copy, selection. It's probably another test one, because this is the developer database. So it's probably just really simple tests that we just ran to check that it works. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Oh, that one's quite nice. Yeah, I've not seen that one before. Okay. So yeah, Elastic Rush undefined. So that was a test one. You can see how quickly it loads. Thanks Vercel, even though you charge through the nose. Maybe one day we'll move off Vercel. Who knows? Right. So now you've got an inkling into what I'm looking at here in this code, right? So I've got the database, and this is all working. But this new table that I added today, I'm just not happy with it. It works, but it's not the way that I would want it to be, right? And since I built it, I take the blame for that. I was really tired, and I just didn't see I just didn't really see that there was a slightly better way. So that's what I'm now doing. I'm just basically just going to get rid of all of this and just do it again, because it's the great thing about software is when you know what you're doing, you can easily tear it down and build it back up again in no time at all. So I've got rid of most of the code and the API code and the stuff that talks to the database, and now what I'm going to get rid of is the code that builds that part of the database. So you can see here, for example, number 8, number 9, and 10. That's all related to the showcase entries that we were just looking at. So that I don't make any errors, because again I've only slept for like 3 hours, and that's when you make mistakes. So I've written a plan, or well, I didn't write it. I got the LLM, the AI that all developers now, the world has changed so quickly, use AI to code. And if you're not using AI to code, you're going to lose your job, guaranteed. And I definitely won't hire you. So I've written a plan, which I'm now trying to find, because I'm so freaking tired. There we go. Okay. So I haven't written a plan. I told the AI to write a plan. I told it what the problem was, that I'd made a mistake and I wanted to undo my changes, and to give me a plan to safely back out so I could do it again. Now I could do that, from memory. I know what I need to do, but I'm so tired, I don't want to make a mistake backing out the changes. So that's why I've got this plan. So step by step. So where did I get to? Yeah, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that. The imports, yeah, we'll see that in a minute. So it's even telling me here to take a kind of like a bookmark, basically. It's called a commit. So let me clear And there are loads of different ways you can do this, but I'm just gonna, so you can see here, I'm just checking what have I done. This is a git control, so I can do git status and it shows me that I deleted these 2 files, right? So I'm happy with that, but actually I think I will check what it said to me to check. Let's just see if I am importing them somewhere else. Doesn't look like it. Show, import show. Yeah, I'm just checking that the files that I deleted are not being imported into any other files, and it doesn't seem like they are. It's like a layer upon layer upon layer. So I got that right. These 2 files are kind of built one on top of the other. So they're the only dependencies. Nowhere else in the code yet was using those 2 files. So I can delete them. So now I'm going to do a commit, which is like a what the word says. You're committing to those changes. You're saying, you're kind of putting your hand up and say, yep, I know what I'm doing. I'm happy. I've looked at what I did. I deleted 2 files. So let's commit that. So add them and then git commit. And it gave me the message. Oh, I just did the wrong copy paste. Dear. 3 AM. I wonder how long I can keep going. Just made a stupid error with a copy paste. Let's go back to the plan. We'll remove that. Now I'm working quite slow because I'm really friggin' tired, and also I'm talking about what I'm doing. And I don't normally work this slow, as you can probably imagine. But also I think people are interested to see and hear me talk through what I'm actually doing. Okay, so I've backed out the API code, and now we're going to do the next bit. So we've got to get rid of the database stuff. So in the schema, so one of the things I like about Drizzle as a technology is it has this thing called a schema file. Now there are quite a lot of patterns around how you do what's called a schema, but this is essentially a code representation of the database that we looked at over here. So if I take a look, for example, and I search in this file, showcase, whoops, not the file, not the showcase. So here we see this code is the code that I originally wrote. Oh, it was 2 days ago. Already 2 days? Bloody hell, time flies. Okay. Basically, yeah. So that's the code that I wrote. Oh yeah, because on my clock it's Sunday. Wow, okay. Yeah, so that is the code that built this. And because it's not correct, I'm going to roll it back. Okay, so let's get rid of that function that does that. And get rid of the relation. So that would be on project domain showcase. So we get rid of this, and now we can do commit on that. Commit, and we want to do remove showcase schema. So what that has done is it's, well, I did a typo. So that has got rid of the schema. So we can see they're modified. And now we have this great command from Drizzle. And what that does is it creates an automation. So that essentially, this is a command from the library that we use, known as Drizzle, which helps our code talk to the database. So let me just double check that I didn't make any typos on that one. So that's now going to create an automation. It's called a migration file. and when you run it, you can see what it says, revert showcase schema. So that's basically going to, what it's done is it's looked at the schema and it's seen that I deleted some code, and it's now basically scanned it to see what did I change, and then it's created this, what you could think of as an automatic file, which will run against the database, and then those tables will disappear from the database. Okay. Now it actually tells me here, you see, this should create a migration that drops the showcase table and any regular index defined. But if this table never existed, this wouldn't do anything. A no op means it's a no operation, right? So it's a safe operation, because if the table isn't there, nothing will happen, but if it is there, it will delete it. So let's just actually run that. So np, funnily enough, it didn't actually tell me to run it, so maybe it tells me, oh, it's down there. So let's actually stick to the plan, because I'm half asleep. So the generated migration won't drop anything created outside the schema. So, right, so this is an interesting point. Who is this? This is GPT-5 I'm talking to. I've got another one over here. Yes, I'm a bit weird because I'm using two AIs at the same time. This one's not doing any work at the moment, but this one has done the plan. And when I'm not tired, you'll see, and I really want to get to this point at some point this week, where I have multiple AIs all at the same time doing different jobs for me, right? And it will be hard to do that on a stream and explain what's going on, but that is the way that coding is going now, right? This is a revolution. It really is a revolution in software development. If I go back 3 years ago, what I'm doing now, I would be doing 3 years ago, but without the plan from the AI. I would be doing it all from my head, right? Now I'm just showing like baby steps. This is where I was maybe 3 years ago when ChatGPT was in alpha. I got lucky enough, I got alpha access. And so you could get a plan. They weren't very good back then, obviously, so you didn't really trust them. But that's what this kind of coding is, and this is where I would say, maybe 60 or 70% of developers in the world are still working like this, where it's, as you can see, it's really slow. But if you can set up AI agents and you can plan ahead what you're going to do, you can just basically give them all the work and you check it, and then you can get on with other stuff that you enjoy doing, and you can get them to do all the grunt work. And that's the way that software development is now going. Just like, we now have a farmer on a combine harvester instead of 100 people in the field picking fruit. Software development is going in that direction, basically. Okay, so got a bit sidetracked there. So it's now telling me to add a manual migration immediately after. So why is it doing that if we've already deleted the tables? Well, one of the things that happens when you have a database backing your software, and some of you are going to end up doing this because you're going to connect your projects to Supabase, and then you're going to have a database, which is basically no different really from this, right? You're going to have tables with data in them. So if you're going to build a project, and you want customers to sign up and you capture their login and their email address and all of that stuff, well, where are you going to store that? You store it in Supabase, because that's the one that we've chosen. You click on that green button, you connect to Supabase, and it takes care of it all for you. The database that we're using here is a little bit more, significantly more advanced, I should say, than what Supabase offers. But for standard projects and websites, the kind of things that our users will be building, Supabase is perfectly fine. And there are millions of developers that use Supabase. Personally, I think this one is better. But horses for courses. It's called NeonDB if anyone's interested, and it's frigging awesome. Okay, so we've got rid of the tables, but something that's useful to know is you can create inside the database things like what we have here, triggers and functions. That's quite, I wouldn't say advanced, but maybe, depends how far you are in your career, I suppose. But what this is doing is, because we want to select projects that appear on this page, right? You know, we don't, because obviously some of you are just going to create noddy projects and you're testing and you're playing around and you see, you know, seeing if it works. And I have seen some quite funny ones actually. And I'm really excited to get this built and live, hopefully by tomorrow. I really want it live by tomorrow. I mean, Yanni wanted it live yesterday, but yeah, he underestimated. You know, he hasn't got the same level of technical knowledge as me, and we had a big debate about it, and I won the debate. So, thankfully, he listened to me. Thanks, Yanni, if you do watch the stream, and hopefully you will see that I was right, and hopefully, you know, tomorrow this feature will be live, and I did actually. Let's actually do it. Can I expose production database? I'm just thinking. There's no email addresses, there's no names, there's no keys, there's no signatures, there's just what, yeah, let's do it. So if I go to, I'm just going to go onto this tool. This is a tool that Drizzle has. And if I go to the production, I can actually see, before I delete it, because I'm going to be deleting this table from production. So select count from, what was it called again? Showcase. Entries. So this is actually in production, right? So this is bad practice. You shouldn't really touch the production database, but I know what I'm doing. So if I run this, we'll see actually right now how many projects have been created. Oh, it's 152. Okay, I thought it was higher, but never mind. So there's 152 projects now that have been created in live. So that was quite useful to see that. So people have been busy creating, which is great. So I'm quite excited to see how many of those will appear on this page. Because, well actually, let me, oh man, I'm so tired. No, that is how many will appear on this page, if I get my code right. So if I go to this table, I think we'll see how many have been created. Okay, so wow, 156 have been created and 152 have been published. So that's a really good metric because that shows that basically 90, what is that? I can't do the math. 98% of users have clicked the publish button and published their project to see what it looks like on the real internet, which is awesome. It shows that people are really keen to publish their projects. So now I'm looking at the stream over here and I can see it's like behind. If there's anybody in the chat, it would be really useful to know like how far behind you are seeing and listening to me. Because what I see on the stream over there on my other monitor, it looks to be, where is it? Like about 10 minutes behind. And I'm just wondering, is that the software delay? No, there's only one person watching, I think. Okay, just talking to myself. I guess I've got a lot to learn about this, how this streaming works. Okay, so now you can see in my editor, because I've deleted that table, it says it cannot find it, right? So I will have to clear that up as well, but we'll come back to that. So the next step is drop trigger exists. So I need a drop showcase extras and a manual migration. So we want a manual migration here. Generate, and we're going to revert a drop showcase extras. And then we're going to open that. Oh, no, that wasn't the right command. Custom, I think it's custom. So now I'm going to ask this AI, give me the Drizzle custom command. serious off the top of my head, because you don't really do that very often, to be honest. What is it? That's not it either. He hasn't got it right. No, you numpty. Oh, here we go. Is it one of these? Generate, migrate, push it. No, that's not what I'm asking. No, I want to create a custom named migration. Well, that is what I did. Oh. Did it not work? Let's check Explorer. Migrations. No. Where's number 12? Look. No, so that's not right. So it doesn't actually. So here's a great example of LLMs not understanding what you're asking them. It's so hard to explain how that happens, but it's not a hallucination. It's just because the command that I'm looking for is not a very commonly used command, which is why I can't remember it. And so it's been trained, obviously, on the internet. It's been trained on all the data on the internet, and the most common commands that people use in, training materials and videos and documentation and code is the commands you see now on the screen, and not the command that I'm looking for. The command I'm looking for is not very common, and as a result, the probability that it will find it is actually quite low. So I've asked it twice now to give me that command, and it just keeps giving me the most common one, which is called generate. And so this is a trap that lots of people are falling into when they do what's called vibe coding, which is a term that I hate because it was originally started as a joke. The guy that wrote the original Twitter post was joking, and people didn't realise that he was being sarcastic, and they thought he was being serious. And now we have this whole new industry called vibe coding, which is quite ironic. Now, since this guy can't actually find the documentation for this command, and I can't remember it, let's go and find the Drizzle docs. Drizzle custom. Can't believe I can't remember this. Custom migration file name. There it is. No, that's not it either. God, what the hell is it? There it is. I think custom. That's the one I'm looking for. Yeah, custom migrations. Am I blind? Did the LLM get that? No, it didn't. Name. Yeah, so I asked it for custom and it couldn't find it for exactly the reason that I just explained. So you can't always trust. Look, it even said, oh, you want to create a custom named migration? No, I want not a custom named migration, a completely custom migration. Slightly different thing. Okay, getting sidetracked. Now let's see. Codex, what did it want me to call it? Now actually I don't think these two commands work together. Let's find out. That would be interesting to see if that actually does work. I don't think I've ever used these commands together. Custom name drop showcase extras.sql. Let's see what happens. That actually worked. And did it get it right? It did. It added number 12. Okay, so the last one was 11. So it's actually, I have to remember that now, it's generate /custom/name. You don't give it the number, you give it the file name, and then it generates the migration in the correct folder with the correct number. Okay, so now that we have that, we can open it and we can put the code in. So that actually all looks correct. So let's just copy and paste it. To trigger the timestamps and the index. I'm not going to explain all of that because it's pretty complicated. Well, that last one isn't, it's just a timestamp, but all of this stuff is quite advanced, so I'm just going to skip explaining that. Use if exists on all jobs to be safe if the objects are never created. Well, I know they were created, but yeah, all that's telling me is the reason why it's put if exists in there. It's just a safety check. Okay, so now we can apply those. So npx drizzle kit migrate. So that should run 11 and 12. So what's happening now is it's updating a journal. Let me make this bigger. So you see it's applying the migrations and it's doing the automation basically on this code, running this code against the database. And so if we now go and look at development here, we look at the tables, you'll see that there is no more projects, what's it called, snapshot entries, right? But if I go to staging, we still see showcase entries, right? So as we move from development to staging to production, those changes will roll through, that table will get deleted, and a new one will take its place. A better one, because my first attempt was only 90% right, in my opinion. Okay, so that's, let's go back to, leave that on development. So you'll notice sometimes I go here and sometimes I go here. It just depends where my brain is at. Okay, but they're basically the same thing, looking at the database. Okay, next step, we've applied the migrations. Since you hadn't applied the bad ones, these will count, blah, 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 verify, search for any remaining references. Oh, now that's handy. I am terrible at this command line stuff because the last time I really used this in earnest was a long time ago, but let's see. Probably won't work. Oh, it does. So how do I even explain that? This grep command is, you can see you can run it in your terminal and you can give it all sorts of parameters. So what this command is doing is it's basically telling your operating system, so in my case that's Mac, it's saying search in the folder that you're in and everything in it and all its children and all its files, it's saying search for that word showcase, okay, because that's the feature that we're working on. And if I've done my job right and the plan was correct, at this point we shouldn't find any references to the showcase other than the one that we know that we had before, which was the one that we talked about right at the beginning, which is that our team is creating projects to showcase here, which we know we do want because that's already there, right? So I was expecting to see that, but not expecting to see this. So something is missing from the plan. So let's tell it you missed these two, you numpty. We have a drink of coffee while he's doing that. Oh, the hooks, okay, yeah. That was in the schema, so that was this red line that we were looking at here, yeah, before. So you see you can't find it because we deleted it. I'm just trying to remember what that was for. That was to build, oh, I remember now, yeah, okay, I'm not going to explain. It was when I started reviewing my own code that I realised, you know, that, like, why am I doing that? There's a better way of doing this. What's this one? Tokens. So I think we can run this command again. And now we don't get those other two. Okay, cool. Remove the property reference them inside any other relations. Likely no inbound reference left, but verify. showcase. Oops. So the schema, that's searching in this file, and in that file now there's no more references to the showcase work that I did yesterday, or no, 2 days ago. But if I open this one and I type showcase, I should see the old database work, 10, 8, 9 and 10, which is there, and then the new one, 11, says 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. And so that's cool. And now clean up unused imports, remove SQL and check imports if nothing else uses them. So now it's telling me just check, did I import other functions, which I did. You see that's declared. So the code that I've deleted was using these two functions from Drizzle, which we don't need to import them anymore. So we get rid of those. So that's the cleanup done. And then we do final check on the grep. Okay. So if nothing else references it, you're clear. Then generate a cleanup migration. Okay. Yeah, so this LLM is also missing the custom command. Generate custom. What name is it suggesting? Revert showcase relation. So that's a good name. Revert. So here's why this is such a handy invention, you know, LLMs, because I am dog tired and I couldn't think of a name for this, and I don't have to. I can rely on the LLM to give me a good name, and that's the perfect name. Revert showcase relations. So that'll give me number 13, I think. Yeah, 13. And then verify no app code still references. God, it is being thorough. Bloody hell. That is. Yep. Okay. If you want, paste the schema around those lines, and I'll confirm exactly what to do. If you want, paste. Oh, right. No, I've already done it. Thanks for the offer. Okay. So. Okay. Let's continue. Let's continue with my plan. The plan. I mean, I asked it to create the plan, but it's not really my plan, is it? I'll remove the leftover showcase relations of the schema and clean up unused imports to align with the rollback. Remove what? Why is it saying that? I've already removed everything. Oh, it's just its thinking mode. It's clean. It's checked it. Cool. No left. No, I see. Yeah, it's checking that I did it correctly. So it's basically exactly what I wanted to do. Part of my plan was, look, well, this is what I screwed up. I need to clean it up. I've got a better solution. So give me a plan of how we can get back to where we were, so that I can basically start afresh with a much better, simpler, cleaner, faster, more performant, more extensible solution to this feature. So now we can proceed with it's even remembered. Okay, so that's crazy, right? Because it's even remembered from I don't know how far back this conversation goes, but you can see if I grab this, look, if I go all the way, this conversation, this is when I started the showcase feature, right? It's a shame that these aren't time-stamped, but look, you can see the conversation I've had with it on this topic, right? To figure out not the optimal, because there's so many ways you can build this solution, and there are so many things that you have to consider about how do you just build it. You know, things like performance, right, is one, but there's other things to consider as well, like, you know, what if somebody publishes, you know, what do you call it, NSFW content, right, or, you know, really malicious incitement to hatred content, something like that, you know, which could happen. So we as admins need the ability to quickly, you know, spot that and get rid of it, right? So that's why, you know, all of these things and performance and other things that I had to consider in my head about how do we build this feature in such a way that that we can quickly add other things on top of it without breaking it, without affecting performance, without our site slowing down, etc., etc., etc. And my first attempt was pretty good, but when I woke up today, I was kind of like, I think I can do better. So since the streaming wasn't working, yeah, apologies for that. I figured I may as well, you know, make out a plan to get rid of the crappy solution. Well, not crappy. Let's say get rid of the first solution and put in a better one. So that's why we are a little bit late with shipping the showcase. It's, what is it now? It's 3:40 in the morning. Well, hopefully we'll get this done tonight and it'll be live tomorrow. Okay, so there are no leftover showcases, blah, blah, blah. Okay, next steps. Okay, so what I was laughing at is, so that I could remember, this is what, 12 hours ago or something? Probably longer. You know, it's yesterday morning, so about 18 hours ago. I thought, I'm probably going to forget what this idea is that I woke up with. So let's give it a name. So I told it all that long ago, right, I've got a better idea for what we did. So we're going to back out everything. And please remember this name is, we're going to go with a presence-based solution. I can't even explain to you what I mean by that. It's a bit of a technical term. But anyway, that's what I told it. And say that, so please remember that name, and then when everything's cleaned up, that's what we'll come back to. So that's why I laughed, because it's like, it's remembered that, and it's like, yeah, all the cleanup's done, so let's continue with the thing that you gave me all that hours ago, presence-based solution. So it's even added, in quotes, curated pics. This is smart. I mean, this isn't even Sonnet, right? I'm still using GPT-5 Low here, which is pretty damn impressive. But Sonnet 4.5, which I haven't got around to installing yet or setting up, is even better. So I'm really looking forward to getting that working. Okay, add the table showcase pics, and this is for presence. Okay, so let's have a look what it's suggesting. We've got an ID, a domain ID, the rank created at, first created at. It's even remembered to change these field names down. That's clever. An optional parameter pic. Why is it suggesting that then? Pics. So I don't remember that being in the plan. So is it hallucinating? Why is it suggesting that? Why are you suggesting this optional relation? Gives you a conventional type safe join target in Drizzle. Okay, so now, like, that's like, why do I want that? What it enables. So I've read that sentence and my mind has gone, well, why would I want that? And then it's anticipated. Like, easier queries to select from the left join domains and also use relation option. So I understand what it's saying. It means that when we actually come to write the code to query the database, that it adds a bit of ease of use and less manual code. So what it's saying is, how do I even explain that? We saw earlier in the database, we've got the domains, which is this table, the showcase entries, which is now gone, but we're going to bring it back in a different form and probably even a different name. Did it remember to give it a different name? Just checking what showcase pics. It did remember. So it's going to be called showcase pics when we bring it back. And what it's basically saying is when we talk to the database, because we've got the data in different tables, which is standard or best practice to structure your data in a clean and easy and sensible way, and that idea goes back about 60 years, and that problem was solved that long ago, and it's still proven to be the correct way to structure your databases, and lots of people get it wrong, and when they get it wrong they pay the price of getting it wrong for a long time. So if you get it right from the start, you save that time, cost and money. So it is actually suggesting that we add a relation because it will make our lives easier when we want to pull data from these different tables to show them on this page. So that's what that's talking about. So why it's optional because there are other ways of doing that. You know, multiple ways to write software, just like there are multiple ways to chop down a tree. When to add if your repository. So this is a good bit at the end. If your repository frequently fetch, will it? So in here, it requires you to think ahead and go, okay, well, are we ever going to need to do these sorts of operations on our database? And I think that we probably are. And we also probably are going to do that as well. So that optional. Now here's why this, setting out a plan before you start coding is so important now, right? Because we've gone through this throughout the industry for decades to write something called specs, write a spec, follow the spec, implement the spec, blah, blah, blah. And now AIs have come along and people are falling in love with this whole vibe coding idea, and you can just code. But if you don't know what you're doing, you can just code yourself into an absolute mess. And even though I know what I'm doing, I would not have thought of doing this. Maybe it's because I'm tired. But it immediately stood out to me when it said, hey, you can do this optional relation. I probably would have gone on the fallback, actually, because I wouldn't have thought far enough ahead for these two things at the end. So I'm glad I asked it why it picked up that optional. And I mean, it's not the end of the world because, you can always change software. So if I'd missed that, it's something that we could have added later. But it's better just to get it in now, then once it's done, you never have to worry about it again. So add the table, showcase pics. This is for the presence-based solution, and then it's going to do a migration. Okay, so I'm just going to tell it to do the work because it's 4 AM now and I can hardly concentrate. What else? And then the migration, and then the extra. So the extras I will come back to. So I'm going to get it to add the table with the option. Okay, update the schema to add the table, including the optional relation. So I don't know how long that will take. Probably not very long because it's pretty straightforward. I don't even know why I actually. Oh, sorry. I was going to say why I actually left it on high, but I didn't. It's on low. Okay. If you don't know what this is, basically, how long does it spend thinking before it does stuff? And pretty much all the modern, recently released LLMs have that feature. Okay, so added the presence-based query table and the relation to the schema. What changed? Imports add SQL and check. So it's added back the SQL and the check because we do actually need them for this new table. Fair enough. It's all about being thorough, basically. So it's added the columns, and it's added a check. Well, that's what I wanted, to make sure that rank is either empty or greater than 0, or equals greater than 0. And then index. So what's an index? That's quite an advanced database feature, but basically if you plan ahead correctly, which I have done, you create an index, and you can think of an index just like the index in a massive book, right? You don't open a massive book and go through page by page by page by page trying to find the thing that you're looking for. If the people who created that book have done a good job, there's an index, and you go straight to the index and you know what word or topic you're looking for, and it tells you what page it's on. That's basically what an index is. It's exactly the same thing. You've got a database, you've got a table inside it, and there might be millions of records in there one day, and you don't want the database to start at the beginning and go through every single record until it's found the one that it's looking for. I mean, think about how big Facebook is, right? And it's looking for your friends. Well, if it started at the beginning of the Facebook database, you know, people beginning with their letter A, God, how long would it take to get to that name that it's searching for? So that's why we have indexes. And they've been in databases even since I was not born. Okay, relation one-to-one with one-to-one from pick. Oh, that's the optional relation. Let's see what that looks like actually. Yeah, so that's just going to make it easier for developers to write code. Cool. Generate the migration. Okay, so I think that's not a custom one. So copy. Let's paste that. Oh, that reminds. I just had a brain fart. There was somebody on Twitter with a few hundred followers, and she was asking for people who are building in the open, I think is what she put. Since I am building in the open, see if I can ping her. Where was that? Oh, hi bitch ass Wendy. Thanks for your images for the video cover. So where the hell did I put that? Wasn't on my feed. I thought I just kept it somewhere. Oh, I'll have to ping it tomorrow. So yeah, so bitch ass Wendy made this image for me. So thank you, bitch ass Wendy. I love it for the thumbnail. Thanks guys, appreciate it. Hope you did pop in. I don't know how much longer I can stay awake. Well, I'm going to keep going till I've got showcases complete and working and live. So I'm getting sidetracked. So who am I looking for? Build in the open. Was that what it was called? Build in the open? I think it was. Build in public, that's what it was. Build in public. You're kidding me. He sold his app. Come on, what is it? Okay, that's a bit risky. It's not secure, but fine. I don't trust this browser anyway, so it doesn't matter. Come on. It just means he hasn't got a certificate. So what has he built? A ChatGPT launcher for your Mac. Join the native experience. No more juggling between Windows or copying and paste. Use ChatGPT without ever... What? Floating chat panel anywhere on your Mac? Why would anybody buy that? Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. That's quite clever. Chat with your screen. I see what he's done. But doesn't the ChatGPT desktop app do this? I'm getting sidetracked now. Shouldn't get sidetracked. Focus, focus. But I've got to see. Let's do a new chat. I bet it doesn't. So what he did, I'm in the ChatGPT desktop app. He basically did a screenshot and it put it straight into his chat context window. Right, whereas mine's just doing what it normally does and puts it. That's actually pretty cool. He took a screenshot and so it's context aware. Yeah, it's context aware to what you're actually doing on your desktop. Oh my God. No wonder he sold it. We can do this, I think. So, okay, this is what happens to my brain sometimes. I see stuff and I'm like, what? Good, bad? What can we do? Let me show you what I'm thinking. So, we go to orynth.dev. It's a shame nobody's really watching this, but this is a genius idea. So when you come here and you want to build an app on Orynth, we could one day copy his idea, because if you see what's happening, he's got a chat prompt open here, right, on his desktop, and it's aware of what he's working on underneath. So you see he's highlighted that text there underneath, and it's automatically come into the, look, watch, if you watch, and then he's selected translate to German, you see? So this chat window that he's built is aware of what the other thing is behind it that he's working on. That's really clever. So when you come to Orynth and you start building something, we could figure out a way to make this chat thing behave in the same way that his behaves. And it would be aware of what you're building underneath. It would see your project, and you could drag this around the screen and say, fix this, fix that. But yeah, that's probably not technically possible. This is on the desktop, isn't it? But now that I see that, it's basically, that's a really good way of describing it. It's a floating ChatGPT plus. I don't think they're going to be fake. Getting sidetracked. And I'm giving him free airtime on my stream, but who cares? Nobody's going to watch it anyway, seems like. So, put a lot of effort into that. Command palette. Pay what you want as well. What happens if I click try free? Whoa. He really is giving it out for free, just for your email address. Gonna have to try that later and give him a shout out. I'm gonna follow that guy, he's talented. Get beam. Is that still a thing? Sold his first indie app. On my way to building public for a few more. Good for you, man. Okay, so building public. Guess we follow that. And then where's that massive thread? No, I haven't. I have actually, sorry, yeah, and I don't like them. Horses for courses. I'm way more productive in my home office. I mean, look, beautiful lighting, quiet, no distractions, no interruptions. I'm going to have to find it later, but there was a thread. I thought it was, yeah, hashtag building public. Come on. Oh, I am on that hashtag. Thought. Getting sidetracked. I need to get back to work. Somebody was, I talked about not being interrupted, but now I'm being interrupted by this thread. But I wanted to post on this person who listed all of the tech. Yeah, I forgot. Should have made a note of it. It's in the browser window somewhere else. Anyway, I'll do it on the next stream. Okay. Let me just close that. We'll go back to work on what we were doing. Okay, so got migration 14. Optional for yeah, we do want those. Okay, add the optional migration for all three. That was not a good instruction. That was a bit too vague. I shouldn't have said that. I should have been a bit more specific, but let's see if it understood me. Triggers and migrations, yeah. It did understand me, okay. Yeah, and the trigger. So let's just double check that he got that right. What's it, number 15? These are the extras for the showcase pics. Okay, create a place of function public, set the timestamp, it's a trigger on updated that, that's correct. Before an update, we update this timestamp updated at for the function, and then we have the function that calls the trigger, created at, first created at. If it's null, then we set it to a new first created at. So what this is doing is, that's one of the ideas that I had, is when we decide that we want a project on this page, the term that we're using obviously is curated. It's a common term, you know, like an art gallery doesn't just let me come along and hang up my crappy painting and try and sell it. They curate, don't they? They select the best art from the best artists, and that's creation. So we're going to select the best projects, create them, and they'll appear here. So in the database, we want to keep track of when that happens, right? So that we can do reporting, and we can, over time, we get what's the word? We get analytics about what we're doing with the creation process. You know, how often we create things, and how long they've been created for, so that over time we get a nice picture of our product and our users and what they're doing. And that's likewise for the updated ad that you saw going on. Okay, show. It's just confirming what they added. Note, use, create or replace, and it exists. So it's do that? Oh, he did do that, yeah. 14. So I'm just checking that the table's correct. We've got the primary key, we've got the link to the domains, we've got the rank, we've got the created at and the first created at, we've got the timestamps, and we've got the constraints that the domain ID is unique and that's null or greater than equal to 0. And then the constraint is, what's the constraint? It's to make sure that it's on the foreign key, and then the index on the ranking and the, okay, cool. So now we can apply those. So they are correct. 14 and 15. Oh, I can't remember the command. MPX. Just migrate areas. Man, I'm tired. My brain's shutting down. Come on. Okay. Why your repo to read from blah blah and join to blah blah and build this code. Yeah, cool. Right. So that's the foundation laid. So the next bit should be pretty easy, but it doesn't want to do. It's forgotten actually. I'm sure I had that in my plan. Oh no, it says on the repo. Why your repo? Yeah, I couldn't see it. So show me the code. Well, actually, no. So let's just get it to write it. Write the code. Write the code for the repo to that the API will need. So we've done the foundation, right? Think of it, we're building a house, right? So think of this page is the window, right? And that's not a good analogy, is it? The roof, maybe. This is the roof of the house, the top of the house. You can't put a roof on a house that has no walls. You can't put walls if you haven't put in a foundation, right? I mean, you can, but like, you know, if you just put a roof on the ground, that's not really a house, is it now? And if you put walls and a roof on the walls, what's going to happen is the house is going to sink into the ground. And I'm sure humans discovered that a very long time ago and realised, well, we live in caves, and if we build on the ground and the rain comes, our house gets washed away or it sinks into the ground, blah, blah, blah. So we've done the foundation, solid foundation in the ground. That's the database structure. Now we're building the next level up. Think of it of the walls, if you like, that sit on that foundation. And those walls, I call it a repository. It's a well-known pattern in software architecture. So now it's building the repository. And the repository, it's not, the walls isn't a good analogy because it's kind of, maybe you could call it the flooring, I suppose, like the carpets or the tiling that sits on the foundation, but you get what I mean. There's another layer above the foundation, and that's what the repository is. So is it added it? Yeah, finish working. So let's have a look, because I basically I didn't give it any instructions in my plan about what the repository should do, right? Because I'll tell you why. Because when we first built this, I laid down this pattern, right? So already in the code base, if I go to, let's see, if I go to a folder called repositories, right? So I added this folder and we added repositories. So you can see there's a repository for domains, messages, snapshots, which isn't actually finished. We'll get to that hopefully tomorrow. The tokens and users, right? So when I designed this architecture, that's something that I put in because it's a standard thing. When you know what you're doing, it's a good pattern. I mean, there are other ways of doing this. There's like so many other ways, but this is my preferred way. It's clear, it's straightforward, it's a layered architecture, and it's good enough for what we need. So because that's already in the code, the LLMs now you couldn't have done this 3 years ago, but now they're so good that they can see that pattern, right? Because look how many repositories there are now. So when you tell it, build the repository, it knows what you're talking about, because it can see, oh, well, here's a bunch of repositories. What do? Oh, they talk to the database. Okay, that's the next level of the foundation, above the foundation. Okay, fine. So now it can build the repository really easy. Okay, so it's done the repository, and you can see what it's doing is a public list with pagination. So way back in my plan yesterday, I already told it to use pagination. I mean, because you can use, what is pagination? Pagination is, when you've got more pages than you can display on the page. So you want to click through page 1, page 2, page 3. The other way you do it is an infinite scroll. Pagination has some advantages. Infinite scroll is not really, I mean, it's a nice feature, but how long do you keep scrolling for? A few minutes, right? I mean, nobody scrolls for hours. Well, I guess some kids probably do, but anyway, yeah, maybe adults do. Stoners probably do too. Okay, I'll take that back. So pagination is simpler in a way, in the sense that you don't have to worry about what if somebody does scroll for an hour. Well, I mean, how much data have they just loaded from your database and across your network and onto their phone? And so you have to account for that. So pagination, I would say, is a kind of a lazy way of solving that problem, but actually, in terms of the user experience, it's also beneficial, because you can go to any page, right? I mean, look at Google, right? I mean, doing infinite scroll on a Google search is probably not that great, right? You see one page of results, and then you see there's 28 million pages, and you never get to page 3 probably. So it's kind of redundant. But anyway, pagination. So it's under pagination. It's picking the fields that we want. It's joining to the domains, so we get some domain information. It's doing the sorting, and it's limiting it to that page size. Page size, where's page size? Yeah, so we're going to do 24 projects at a time. So remember earlier we found out there's about 150 that have been published. So we should get, oh God, my math now. There's 10 pages, not 10 pages, 5 pages, 6 pages. Was it 20? Yeah, about 6, 7 pages probably. Okay. Now it picked 24. I didn't pick 24, so I just left it just to see what is it thinking of when it comes to build the page. Because I think 24 is quite a lot. I think it's too many, but we'll see. We can easily come back and we can just change that to 12, for example, and then we get 12 on a page, and we get what's double, 12 pages, 6, 7, 14 pages maybe. Okay. Now there's some squiggly lines on this one, which is bothering me. Why is it not like? Why is it not like that? Oh, it's just formatting, I think. So, oh, of course, because I only installed Cursor yesterday and I haven't finished setting it up. Why? Yeah, well, me and Cursor have had a love-hate relationship, is how I would put it. Yeah, it's prettier. Yeah, it's a prettier thing. Okay, so yeah, that's a prettier thing. Yeah, because when Cursor first came out and everybody was crazy about it, how long ago is that now? Like 18 months ago, I think, probably, or 12 months ago. Wow, it's not that long. And I tried it and I used it, and it just frustrated me because it wasn't really any different from VS Code, not really. And I've been using VS Code for 10 years or something. So, you get used to using a tool. You don't really want to give it up, and the change for me wasn't worth it. Didn't give enough benefit. But obviously, I've been following. I work in this field, and I've been seeing what they're doing, And oh boy, I cannot wait to use this feature. Where do they put it? I can't remember where they put it now. And that's why I installed it yesterday. Here, I think it's this one. Right, so they've added parallel agents, and this, Yanni knows this. When he met me, I was actually planning to build this myself, and they've actually done it already in Cursor, and I cannot wait to try it out. Where you can basically do what I've done and have been doing manually. So for the last month or so, or longer, I've been running multiple editors. In fact, I've still got them open. Look, if I go, right, so here's some work that I'm still working on in another editor with the AI working here and another AI over here. And I actually had another one, but I closed it down because I finished it. But it means that at any one time, oh, is it still? Yeah, it's gone. So I would have 3 editors, 2 AIs in each editor, and managing all of that myself and giving them all different tasks. And you can see that here, right? And that's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort. And it dawned on me that I can automate that, right? That you can simplify it if you do it right. And instead of hopping between them all the time, if you create a plan and a spec, which is what the industry has been doing ever since, I don't know, the 70s or even earlier actually, yeah, like how did we get a man on the moon? Well, because we wrote bloody good specs for the Apollo missions, right? So you write down the specifications which says what should happen. This bolt goes there, this glass goes there, this engine has to operate at this temperature and blah, 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 and this is how far the moon is, and this is when we launch. Those are the specifications, the rules around what you're building. And the software industry did that, you know, we realized very early that that's what you need to build software, and it's kind of been lost. And AI has made it worse actually. But what's interesting is that this year people realized that the way to get these AIs to write better code is not only to make the AIs better, but actually also to improve how we use them. And that is where we get to agents and specs. So now, in the new version of Cursor, I think it's been out a couple of months, but you can, if you do this and you write specs, and there's a couple of alternatives, GitHub have released one as well called spec development. There's BMAD, there's another one called Tecomsu or something. Anyway, they're all basically the same idea, where you write a plan, you write a spec, which is basically what I did for this job. But if you write all of your specs well, then you can run, now in Cursor, you can run the agents in parallel and they can work together as a team. And when I was planning to build that myself as an extension, and they've already done it, so I don't have to do it now, which is a shame because I thought I might be able to make some money building something like that, but now there's no point because that's a solved problem and it's just going to get better and better and better. Okay, so add a repository, we did that. So let's check the type, because I noticed that it doesn't always get the types quite right. Where is it? Oh, it's in the repository, isn't it? I'm in the wrong file. Showcase pics. Here's the type. ID, project ID, the type, the title, the slug, the screenshot. Oh, that was a reminder. Oh, bugger. Where's that code? So I've got some code somewhere to build this that isn't finished. So I've got to finish that as well. That was something that we did before version 2 went live, but I didn't get a chance to finish it. So I need to find wherever that code is and bring it back. Okay. Domain type, rank, curated out, first code. actually... I'm just thinking through the other fields that are in the database. I think that's fine for now. Okay. Why doesn't it like that? Oh, that's just a tiny thing. Oh, God. Is that a lint? That must be a lint rule. Fine. Let's just do it then. Better to be thorough. It's just, I'm not even going to explain it. It's not worth it. It's just a rule, basically, to have better standardized code. Let's put it like that. So I just explained it. I said I wasn't going to. Okay. If you want, I can add a public API route that uses the repo. Yeah, that's what we want next. So now we're doing the next layer. So we've done the foundation, we've done the flooring. Now we could say that the API is perhaps the walls that let you. Yeah, I need to think of a better analogy than building a house. This is the next layer of the house. You could say we're building the ground floor of the house, right? And then at the end, we build the top floor, and then we build the roof, which is the bit that you see. So, yeah, it's a really crappy analogy. It kind of makes sense, but there's got to be a better one. Never really had to explain that before, I don't think. Well, so, give me an analogy for building full stack architecture. DB, repo, API, front end, what do I call them? Front end. I'm going to have to go to bed. I couldn't even remember that word. Yeah, that'll do. Factory assembly line? Oh no, that's a horrible example. No. That's shit. Excuse my language. No, like building a house where the DB is the foundation. It's after all, this is about good architecture. See if it. Oh yes, building a house is the perfect. No, it's not the perfect analogy. Stop agreeing with me. No, it's not. It is not the perfect analogy. Give me a better one. Getting sidetracked again. So is this one finished? Yes, it has. Added the API. Blah 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 blah. Okay. API. Oh, that's the get command. So showcase. Okay. Returns items. Right, I'm getting tired. There's nobody on the stream anyway, so I think I'm going to have to stop. What analogy did it come up with? Building a car? Really? Okay, yeah, that's actually pretty good. Yes, that's actually pretty good. I think I could use that. So the database is your engine and the block and the transmission that you don't really see because it's kind of, it's inside the car. The repository is the management system that sits on top of the engine. I like that, yeah, because now, modern cars have all this electronics and everything that intelligently manage the engine and the interface between the controls, the steering wheel and all of that. The API is, that's where it kind of breaks down a little bit, the wiring and the harness. Okay, yeah, I suppose that does sort of make sense. And then the front end state is, the dashboard and the control system, right? So that reflects what the state of the car is at that point. What speed is it doing? Is it speeding up, slowing down? So that's your state. So we have that in the browser. What are you clicking? What did you do? What was the last page you're on? What's the new page you're on? If you put in some data, that's the state, right? So what's the state of the web page at any one point in time? What's the state of the car at any one point of time? So that's a good analogy. And then the actual user interface, what you use to drive the car, is the steering wheel, the pedals, if it's got a touch screen on it, the dials for the radio, I suppose you could include, and all of that stuff. That's your user interface. So that's quite a good analogy, actually. Let's see if we can before I go to bed. Do better. Really, the human nervous system. DNA, genetic memory. Repository is the brain process. The API is your nervous system and synapses. The front-end state is your consciousness and working memory. And the UI is your senses and motor control. That's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool, but if you tried to explain that to a 10-year-old, would they understand it? I don't think so. So let's try that. Do it like I'm 10 years old. Making a pizza. What? Making a pizza? Are you... Okay, let's go. The database is the fridge. The repository is the chef's brain. What the hell? This doesn't make any sense. API is the delivery system. Okay, I can kind of see. All right, the front end state is the order pad, and the UI is a beautiful take. No, that's way too abstract. Try again. With something more, more construction-y. Is that a word? I don't know. More construction-y. There we go. That's better. Building a Lego castle. Right. Let's see what that's. So the database is the box with all the bits and pieces. Oh, I like this. Right. So that's all your bits and pieces where you keep all your bricks, where you keep them stored. And that can be over a long period of time. That's where everything belongs. The repository is the instructions. This is cool. So it's like what are those things called? The manuals that you get when you buy a Lego set, right? So that's your instructions on how those bricks. This is really good. Wow. Yeah. So I might actually do a YouTube video on this. This is the best analogy I've seen, I think. Wow, yeah, so you've got your box, which is your database, which is there for all time unless somebody burns it down with your data, which is your bricks that you can build stuff with. Then your repository is the instructions that you have, the manuals that say how those bricks go together to build something. That's your repository. And then the API would be, like a crane, a machine that moves the pieces around. If you had one, obviously a lot of Lego sets don't have that, but essentially by following the manual, the construction crane is your API that then sends that to the playset, the building workspace, the table. It's called it the table, where you keep track of what you're doing. So it kind of breaks down a little bit, I suppose, but then the last bit is your finished castle, the UI. I think a child would understand that. I quite like that, and it uses Lego, which is obviously a child's toy. Maybe give it one more go. I like that, but I think the API analogy breaks down. An API analogy. I don't always do this and get carried away. It's because I'm just so bloody tired. I can't even think straight anymore. I think the API analogy breaks the idea. So put out all the stops and give me your best effort. See if it does. That's a better analogy. Your API are your hands and your building skills to put the things together on the table. Yeah. Your hands are the natural API. They're the bridge between your brain and the physical world, just like how an API connects back-end logic to front-end interaction. That's such a beautiful analogy. I love that. Good place to end. Hopefully I can keep doing this. It slows me down though, because I'm talking to myself. It's weird. It's a very different experience. Maybe I shouldn't talk and just build, but then anybody who joins the stream is just going to be bored. I don't know. New to streaming. We'll figure it out as we go along. How do I stop this?